Hello, everybody. It is your Uncle Fish back again for School Fish Art Stream. J-Man wants a Gatling gun on the end of his tail. Oh my goodness. J-Man says the tail's where you put all the heavy artillery. Damn. Said he used to have a howitzer on the end of his tail. Hello, welcome back again to the School of Fish Art Stream every Tuesday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. This time, what is up, Katie? Good morning. Glad you're here. I'm also streaming live on TikTok this morning for those that are over there. So I hope you guys can enjoy that. Trying to see if I can get this on both places at the same time. So if you're following me on my other social medias, on the YouTubes and whatnot, and the Facebooks at Mr. Fish Comics, you can watch it over there. What's up, TP Comics? You can see at least this part of it. If you want to watch the whole thing and get involved in the comments and stuff, you can watch me on other places at Mr. Fish Comics as well. This morning, we are working on pages from The Mighty KAAW issue 2. And I've already done the blue line work and stuff. As you can see, I've got some of it turned off. Got the blue lines laid out for this page. And I've got the first few panels inked. And KAAW is just absolutely brutalizing the captain of this pirate ship that has captured him. And now we're going into the section here where the ship is falling apart as it's being ripped out of hyperspace. And I'm turning off some of this extra stuff just so there's a little less for me to have to juggle with. And then I've got my blue line layer set up here. Some of y'all can't see because my face is covering it on the art stream. And then I've got my layer above it set up to a vector art layer that I'm going to start drawing in. And if you can see over here, I set up a perspective ruler. This ship isn't really in perspective. We're looking at it straight from the side, but I set up a perspective ruler simply so I could get nice straight lines going down the side of the ship and up and down, so I could get my horizontal and vertical lines for the ship all going the same way so they look nice and mechanical. And then I can turn the layer off, turn off the perspective ruler when I need to. And of course, I set the color on the perspective ruler to green so it's easy for me to see, so it's easy for me to turn on and off over and over again. TP Comics asking which art style is mine. My art style is pretty simple. A lot of people have equated it closer to like Saturday morning cartoons kind of stuff, which I'm totally cool with. My art style is definitely a lot simpler than most people of my generation that like to pack everything in with as many cross-hatching lines and stuff as they possibly can. And that's not really how I do stuff. So now I'm going to use the rusty pen that I've been using for everything else, and I'm going to start dropping in a lot of these major shapes. I've got the earlier drawing that I did. Finding one perspective line there. I originally set up. Oh dang it! I forgot I can't do a diagonal line. I originally drew the ship for the first time in a School of Fish episode, so I'm referencing that image on my other screen over here, and now I'm redrawing it flat. If I ever really need to, I can go back and look at the objects that I put together to come up with the design for this, but after I got the basic shape off of some found objects, sitting around my desk. I modified it so much after that that the original objects don't really matter as much as that old drawing does in getting this to look right. And like I can only really do my horizontal and vertical lines right now without turning off that perspective layer. But I want to get as much of the straight stuff put in as I can. Whoops, erased too much. Get as much of the straight lines and stuff put in as I can before I go putting in a bunch of other stuff. And the whole top of this deck is flat until, yeah, right up there. And that is straight. This is, whoops. And a lot of this, like, we didn't get a good look at the bottom of the ship in the earlier shot, so I can do whatever I want to do down there right now. And this ship is breaking up, so I can honestly do everything I want to do to it right now and not have to worry about having to be able to redraw this ship 1,000 times, because this ship isn't going to exist anymore after this. What page is this for the book? He asks. If you're watching on any of my other channels, you'll be able to see the title on the top, but I kind of don't want to give too much away because I'll just say if you're watching it on any of my other channels under Mr. Fish Comics, you would be able to see what it is. I'll say that. Otherwise, you could be surprised when the book comes out. I don't want to give too much away, you know. Don't want to be too much team spoiler alert like Danny J. Quick, you know. I like to keep some surprises in there. This little room comes off below that deck. And this building is almost as tall. Wait a minute, that's not going. There we go. That's better. This one's not going straight. Been trying to figure out a way to get where I could do all of this in one place. Good morning, Sarah. Good to see you after not talking to you for so long. Oh yeah, Danny is famous for giving out spoilers, man. He is team spoiler alert, hands down, man. He blurts out all the stuff. Having lots of folks hop in on the TikTok, which is cool. Thank y'all. Glad y'all are here. Hope you enjoy the art stream. Been trying for a while to figure out how to get it. Like, I can stream from my computer onto TikTok, but I can't do it all at the same time to all my other channels, or TikTok locks everything up. All right, now I'm going to turn off that perspective layer so I can start drawing in some of these angles and stuff that I couldn't do before, and some of these curves and things. It was a really interesting episode of School of Fish where we worked on this ship, and it's got a whole lot of lots of varied shapes on it and stuff. And like, we walked through on the show how I was looking around my office area and ended up using a screwdriver and a box cutter that were handy to make the shape for this ship, and then how we drew that in perspective, how we planned out perspective for all the circular shapes on what ended up becoming the hyperdrive on the ship to get them all correct in perspective. And it was a really good episode. And it's still available on my YouTube and stuff if people want to go back and find it. Sarah says YouTube keeps showing like 2 different instances for my show every week, and she always ends up clicking on the wrong notification, and it ends up sending her to watching a blank screen for a few minutes until she realizes it's the wrong one. I'm sorry. Getting all these different platforms to play together well, even when they're supposedly designed to play together well, is not always easy. Do you use the texture of old school like Braden Boyd uses for to do stuff like Jack Kirby? It depends on the project I'm working on. There have been a couple of projects I've worked on where the client absolutely wanted like an old school like 60s feel for it, and we definitely did that look, and it was a lot of fun. And some of it I did the same way Braden does, and some of it I did in totally different ways to get the same effect, but to make it quicker. Like he's actually going through the old school process of using, you know, various strengths of dot patterns in primary colors, you know, in the printing CMYK colors to get the finished colors, just like they had to do, you know, like back when I was a kid to get the colors in comics. Like he's actually going about it the old school way. And I absolutely faked it on one book to get the same effect quickly so I could color it my normal way and then, you know, get that effect like that without having to go through all the step-by-step hassle that he goes through, which is cool, and I appreciate what he does, and his work is awesome. But also, like, this is my day job, so if it doesn't get done in a timely fashion, I don't make enough money to pay the bills. So I gotta walk that line between doing what I want to do artistically and doing it in a way that still makes money, because, you know, gotta make money or I don't have a place to live. That mortgage company is real stickler about getting that mortgage payment every month. And they don't care whether people are buying books from the TikTok shop or not. They don't care if, you know, a client has been slow to want to pay. None of that stuff really seems to matter to the mortgage company. Seems a little insensitive to me, but, you know, that's the way they choose to run their business. Every once in a while, that has led me to a little bit of a, you know, hiccup with a new client or something. And if a new client is doing this as a hobby, then understandably they've got different motivations and timelines and necessities on things. And like if they're raising the money out of pocket and saving it and whatnot to pay to get the book done, and, you know, things come up and whatnot, like I get things happen, but also, like, while they can work for free because it's their passion project, I can't afford to work for free because this is how I feed my kids and keep a roof over their head. And they're like, I thought we were like, I absolutely want to make this work. I want this to be successful. It's in both of our best interests that the books are as successful as they can possibly be. And I want to help promote and get the word out and everything. But also, like, if you don't have the money to get the book done on your side, while I sympathize and I would love to help, I can't do it for free because the guy at the grocery store is not going to give me groceries for free because he believes in our shared dream of making this book happen. The mortgage company is not going to give me 3 months off on my mortgage so that we can help bring somebody's dream to life. They do not care. As much as I would love to be able to volunteer my time to help other people bring their dreams to life, I can't volunteer it for free and not have my kids go hungry. And man, my kids are teenagers. They be eating all the freaking time. They don't even take a break. Welcome to everybody that's joined the live on TikTok. Glad to have y'all here. I am sharing my regular weekly art stream that I do every week, Tuesdays at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on all my other platforms at Mr. Fish Comics, wherever social medias are found. I'm sharing it here too. If you want to see the whole thing and you want to see a little bit of my face and you want to see the whole screen, you can check me out at other places too, or we can hang out here. And I will look down at my phone when I get an opportunity. I also have to draw that this whole thing is falling apart in an interesting, fantastic way at high speed. And what does that really look like? This is where we have to get creative. I find myself in this issue having to make all kinds of weird decisions I didn't think I would have to make, like, do these aliens have skeletons? Because a lot of brutal things have happened to them, and, you know, I originally didn't intend for them to have skeletons, but then, you know, the way they came out looking, I had to make some changes and admit that, you know, even though I might have intended one thing, they came out looking like something a little different. And so eventually I had to decide to give them skeletons so that I would know whether or not bones are going to be poking out in places. Spoiler alert, they are. But yeah, I really enjoy Brendan Boyd's work, man. It is awesome stuff. He is a really impressive dude, man. I wish I was getting the stuff done at his age when I was his age. I mean, I am super impressed with him, and I've told that to him. He is a very impressive young man. And he's really lucky to have grown up in the age that he's grown up in, and for all this stuff to be so easy for us to get it out there on social media and let people see what we're doing now. And he is taking full advantage of that. And I applaud him, man. Man, what I wouldn't have done to be able to get access to half the amount of people we can get access to now through social media to see my stuff and potentially, like, you know, pitch my my ideas and my books to, man, I would have been publishing my own books a whole lot earlier if I had had this kind of access, this kind of audience back then. But this just wasn't a thing. Like, and we couldn't just go to a digital printer like Kablam or Comics Wellsprings and get our books made back then. Like, I talked to a local printer about printing my books, and unless I could do a 5,000 print run for $10,000, they weren't even going to talk to me about it. And you know, for a single young father, you know, in the late '90s, man, that might as well have been $10 million. There's no way I was going to get that kind of money. So that just was not going to happen then. Now we can go to Kickstarter and get the word out and get all kinds of people to come back our stuff. Man, it's so awesome now. I'm so grateful for all the gifts that this technology has blessed us with over the years. Like, being able to work with people from around the world. Like, half of my friends that I have now, probably 3/4 of my close friends that I talk to on a daily basis, I wouldn't know if it wasn't for social media letting us connect like-minded individuals that are, into creating our own comics and stuff, and let us connect and make friends with people like Sarah and Katie and Braden and Kyron at Taurus Comics and Danny at Fourth Wall and Morgan. And geez, like here lately, a lot of days I talk to Kyron at Taurus Comics more often than I talk to my wife in real life. But, we're both doing this for our main living, so like we're on similar types of schedules and have similar amount of free time and similar amount of pulls on our time and resources, and so it's easy to talk to each other about things that we need to talk about and ask for advice and things where maybe somebody else is at their 40-hour-a-week day job or something at that same time, and makes that hard to do. But like, it's so cool having other creators that are full-time creators that you can talk to, and know you can talk to during the day and be like, hey, where did you get that printed? Where did you find those boxes to ship that out in? Where did you get those brand new stickers printed? Man, I've had so many people hit me up since last night asking me where I got my new stickers printed, because I just got a bunch of new stickers for T-Man and Hyperstrike and stuff. And because I've been selling so many copies of T-Man and Hyperstrike through my shop on TikTok, and I was like, man, I don't have enough T-Man and Hyperstrike merch anymore, because it hasn't been my main seller in a while. But now all these people on TikTok are seeing it for the first time and picking it up, and so it's suddenly a much bigger seller than it has been for the last couple of years. So I was like, oh, I gotta get more merch. And I've had so many people hitting me up about like where I got my stickers printed at, because I've been getting really good deals on them. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely, man. I will absolutely share that information with you and tell you where and how I found that price. And this is a little tip for everybody out there in TikTok land, for everybody out there in the Facebooks and the YouTubes and the Twitches and the whatnots at the Mr. Fish comic pages that are following along. The biggest tip I have learned over the years is to look for the same thing in other places. And I picked it up when I was doing modeling, and I was doing a whole bunch of modeling for my role-playing game that I run, and and I was having to build like water towers and buildings and electrical fences and all kinds of stuff because I run a superhero RPG, and I needed all this, like technical stuff. It's not all tents and moats and taverns and things. Like it's all a lot more technical sci-fi type stuff. So I needed more technical pieces for it, and you can't just make it all out of popsicle sticks and whatnot. Um, and like for a lot of technical modeling, people will use like styrene rods and stuff, and bits of styrene so you can cut it and glue it together and make all kinds of cool stuff. And what's up, Justin? Good to see you, man. And but like buying those styrene rods in the modeling section for people that are modeling is so expensive, and you can pay like $6 to $10 for one or two of those styrene rods. But I was over in the party section at Hobby Lobby at the same place and found like the same size styrene rods for like $5 for a pack of 12 as sticks for balloons. And it's the exact same styrene rods that I'm using over here. They work exactly the same. They make great cannons and pillars and all kinds of cool stuff. And then I realized they sell them in all kinds of shapes and stuff. And they sold like really big, wide around ones that make awesome pillars and stuff to put in cakes to hold the other layers of cakes up. And they sell them dirt cheap because they know you're going to stick it in a cake and throw it away. Where if you tried to buy that same thing over in the modeling section, it would be, like a $10-15 piece of plastic. And over here, it's a whole bag of them for like $4. And I realized then if I start looking in other places for the same things, I might have a lot better time finding the kind of prices that I really would rather be paying for things. And so I started looking, and I started finding all kinds of great deals on things in other places. Like I started looking for, I don't know if I have one handy. I started looking for trading cards because I wanted to do trading sketch cards, which I've been giving out in a lot of my sales on my TikTok shop lately. I've been adding in little free sketch cards and stuff that I've done. And I started looking at getting those printed, and all of the like comic printing companies and stuff will gladly print you sketch cards and trading cards and stuff. And and the prices aren't bad per se, but I was like, man, that's kind of pricey. And I was still looking at like $1 a piece or something for these things. I was like, I'll bet you I can find a cheaper price. So I started looking, I looked at the size and what these were coming out to be, and I started looking around, and I remembered my wedding. And my wife wanted to do single-sided wedding invitations. She had seen somebody else had done them, and they looked really cool. And, just a single-sided card with a glossy finish in an envelope looked real nice. So I started looking at those, and the prices for wedding invitations were crazy high, but the price for the exact same thing in a postcard, dirt cheap. You could buy 120, 200 or whatever and get it down to like 20 cents a piece for these postcards, where the wedding invitations were like $2 or $3 a piece. And it's the exact same thing, printed by the exact same place at the exact same size on the exact same cardstock and glossy coating and the whole 9 yards. But wedding invitations were a whole lot more. Postcards were a whole lot cheaper. So I ordered us a bunch of postcards, dirt cheap, that looked just as good as the others would have done. And I remembered that when I was looking for trading cards. So I started looking, and I realized I could get my trading cards printed as postcards at 5x7 and get 4 cards on each postcard, cut them myself once they got here, and end up getting the price of my trading cards down from like $1 something a piece down to like 20 something cents a piece, and saved me so much freaking money on doing them that way. And so I look for things like that with my stickers too. And like I followed everybody's advice, and I looked at all the sticker places and Sticker Mule and all these things. Like, it was so expensive per sticker. Like, I was like, I can't sell this at a price that's going to make me any real money at all. So I started trying to get creative and saying, like, what else could this be marketed as? And then I found labels on Amazon that you can order, and you can get custom full color printed labels in whatever size you want. You can even get custom die cut and what all around them. You can get all kinds of extra fancy finishes and stuff to them if you want. But because they're selling labels that are going to go on a package and get thrown away, or labels that are going to go on the box that you're shipping out, or labels that are going to go on your soap that you're selling and get thrown away when somebody starts to use the soap, they're a whole lot cheaper than the place that's selling you the exact same thing as stickers for you to sell at a profit to make money on, to sell stickers. So they're selling you a premium product here, where I can get the exact same product that is weatherproof and dishwasher safe and UV resistant and glossy and vinyl and the whole 9 yards, and get them die cut and get them down to, 20 something cents a piece, because I ordered 120 of each one as a label instead of a sticker. And yeah, I had to cut them out myself, but I spent like 20-30 minutes last night and cut out 480 stickers and saved myself like 60 cents a piece on them. Yeah, absolutely. Much better deal. And their quality. Like, I wouldn't be as excited about it if it was crappy quality. Like, if they were, like, it's the reason I don't do stickers myself at home, because like, I know on the printer I have, I could only get so good a quality. And even if I laminate them, water can still get under the edges and make them bleed and stuff. And there's a whole lot of things that could go wrong that I would rather not go wrong with my product that I'm trying to sell. And so farming them out to this place, it just works out so good. And I'm super happy with them, and it brings the price down to something that I can afford to give away if I want to. And all right, there we go. Now we've got the ship falling apart. I am going to import image, and I made a texture of this hull texture that I ended up putting on the ship originally. And now I can, why is it not? Okay, there we go. Oh, I had the eraser on. That's why it wasn't working. All right, shrink it down, rotate it. I want to keep rotating it until I get it to where it really looks like it's matching up well with the angle of the ship. And I'm not going to get it exactly like the other pieces, but I want to find some place where I get lots of interesting texture on it, on the ship itself. And all the parts have cool texture, and none of it has like, I want to have as little texture heavily competing with each other, with the lines of the ship, as I can get. Okay, now I'm going to turn that off. Now I'm going to go to my selection tool, and I'm going to start to select all these areas that I want that texture to show up on. I don't want to get the smoke and explosions and the bits of debris and stuff. I don't want them having that texture, but A lot of these other parts I do want to have. Like I don't want the engines to have it because they didn't have it in the original one. And let's see, maybe I'll put some down here on that part too. And now I'm going to turn that back on. And on my whole texture, I'm going to right click. And I'm going to go to layer mask and mask outside of selection. And boom, now we've cut it off. And it's just in there, which is cool. That's what I want. And I need to add some hold numbers and some other stuff, but I'm going to do that in the coloring and really get it to match up with the coloring from the other ship, which you can see. Come on. Whoop, screw it. You can see some of it here on this one. Because I used the same image from the first issue where we see the ship in hyperspace. I went ahead and reused it for this scene to save me some time, and then cut out the parts where the engine's blowing up and drew in everything where it's coming out of hyperspace. And yes, that is absolutely a cheat that I can do because I'm working digitally. But if I was working traditionally, I could have just Xeroxed that same image, enlarged it to whatever size I wanted, and cut and pasted it in place too. And, you know, sometimes we do stuff like that to make it go quicker. Katie said in a comment, everything marketed for weddings is needlessly expensive, and it absolutely is. They will market stuff depending on what they think you're going to use it for and what kind of value do they think you're going to add to it, because it is a wedding over a birthday party or, you know, stuff like that, and they're going to make it a lot more expensive. I never knew a single neurodivergent person until I was in my late 20s and got into social media. It's pretty nice to know other people who have the same challenges in life. Absolutely. I didn't meet other people with Tourette's until I was, you know, got diagnosed at 30. And I thought I was the only person in the world that had Tourette's as an adult, because all of the documentation, all the stuff on the website say, you'll outgrow it. And here I was an adult getting diagnosed, and I was in a wheelchair, and it didn't say anything about that on the websites. But the more I got in Facebook groups and met other adults and stuff that had Tourette's, I met all kinds of other people that like needed crutches or a service dog to function, or, you know, were in a wheelchair like me or needed assistance. Is that the new KAAW? It absolutely is, Christian. This is issue 2. I'm just about done with the inks on issue 2. It is going really well and going fast. Let's see. I need to zoom out, and excuse me, got a little bit of the burpees. Got a little air mixed in my coffee there. I'm shaking it up. All right, now I'm selecting everything outside of the ship and the smoke and the explosion and those panels. So I got all of that selected. And then I'm going to go grab this saturated line starburst tool that I love so very, very, very much. And I'm going to draw a starburst out here. And we'll see what it looks like. I didn't see anything happen. It didn't create it. Oh, I'll be danged, it didn't create it because it was off the page. Okay, so let me put it here on the page and then move it off the page. There we go. That's what I need, because I need my lines coming way over here. So first thing we're going to do is go to length, and we're going to extend the length of those lines, which I've never had to do before. I'm usually shrinking them, not stretching them. There we go. And then we're going to come down and we're going to close the gaps between the lines. Why is this? Is this one still grouped? Yeah, I still got this one set to groupings of 5. which it started out in. Shrink the gaps. Shrink the gaps. Come on, connect. There we go. All right. It gives me a good start. Okay, now it clicked in and it got a lot denser. I was wondering. Let's give it a second to catch up. Okay, that's pretty good. That's about where I want it. I'm probably going to tweak them more, but we're going to go ahead and save before I screw up and crash my computer because it's getting kind of glitchy on me there. All right, now let's see. Okay, that's the bottom page. That's what. Turn on that. And come back down over here to this layer. And now I'm going to flip my scene. Usually I ink everything in reverse because it helps mistakes in my pencils jump out. And my pencils, as you can see, are very rough. Thank you, Christian. My pencils are very rough, so I like to flip the page when I'm inking. But because that ship was so detailed and I needed to look at my reference on the other side, if I flipped it, and I'm not flipping my reference image, I was going to end up screwing up and putting the engine on the wrong side or something, and I didn't want to do that. So, but now that I'm going back to inking the regular stuff, I'm flipping it like I normally do. I've been trying to get that click for an extra prize thing off of the live stream on TikTok for a while. What is up, Kyron? Just showing up. Never heard of inking. Oh, dude, you've got to ink in reverse. That's why I added it up here, the flip horizontal to my view. I added it to the top of my screen because I use it all the time. I flip back and forth all the freaking time. And I will pencil it one way. And like if you went to art school, they probably showed you like when you're working on your pencils to take it and hold it to a mirror and it'll flip it, and all the problems that you've made, the mistakes you made, will jump out at you. Because like that part of our brain that is designed to find faces in things and find patterns, and the reason that we see faces in the front of cars or a plate of bacon and eggs or a cloud is the same thing that will make our drawing look right, because our brain's like, okay, those are eyes, that's a nose, this is a face, I know what it is. And it just kind of fills in the gaps for you. But if you flip it for whatever reason, those mistakes suddenly will jump out at you. The excuses your brain was making to make it look good suddenly jump out, and you notice them more. Art school? I'm from the streets. I learned the hard way, Kyron says. On the mean streets of Beverly Hills. He was out there scraping by a living. But the mirror trick works wonders. I did it on my sculptures all the time, and I'd be like, man, this tiger looks amazing. And then I'd hold it up to the mirror and realize one up here and one eye's way down here. I was like, dang it, I gotta redo both those eyes. So now when I do my pencils, I flip it and I ink it in reverse, which is only really a problem when you have very asymmetrical costume designs like I do in my book Green Zone. Yeah, that was back when Kyron only had 3 butlers doing the work for him. You can open a new window in Clip of the same image and have one of them flipped but still work on both windows at the same time. Yeah, I could. My problem is I'm so used to having it on another screen over here that I've got like the image open on another screen and not in Clip Studio. But I could flip it. I just didn't. And it was a technical drawing anyway, so I'm not that worried about like the emotion and stuff, or like it's not like it had 2 eyes that have to be symmetrical and I can't worry about messing it up. It's a spaceship that's falling apart as it is. Anyway, back to the work, because my boss is a slave driver and don't put up with no nonsense, and he's mad about how much time I've been wasting packing packages for the TikTok shop and whatnot lately. I'm not getting pages done. So I got to get on this before my boss fires me. Mr. Fish is a tough dude. He seems all nice and friendly on the TikToks. Don't listen to it. It's a lie. He's a mean old cuss. Old man works me 15, 16 hours a day sometimes. Don't even let me eat some days. Mean old fish. I'll be working for hours and be like, I gotta go to the bathroom. That old man will say, you can go to the bathroom when you're done. But I won't be done till midnight. Shut up and get to work. Not playing though. I did realize I worked myself too hard when I saw a TikTok channel talking about how much free time manga artists got to themselves and how they only got 3 hours a week to themselves. And my first response was to look at my wife and be like, man, I can't even imagine what I would do with 3 hours a week just to do whatever I wanted. And I was like, you know what? That might be a problem. I might need to do something about that. Okay, wait a minute. Let me double check. Okay, it's the other tooth he got knocked out. I knew he got one of his teeth knocked out in an earlier shot. What is up, Guy Gardner? Did you get your sketch card and stuff? I hope. I hope it's made it by now. Thank you guys for all the likes and shares on the video. I appreciate that on TikTok. I tell you, I have seriously been thinking about just moving my School of Fish art stream to TikTok because I get so much better engagement over there. I mean, like right now I got 3 or 4 viewers and I got 5 over here on my other channels. So I don't know, but it definitely shares it out to a lot more people than any of the other platforms are willing to do. They're still good about getting out in front of new eyes, even if they're starting to move over towards more of a, if you really want people to see your stuff, you can pay. I'm not saying I want to drop y'all on YouTube or the Twitches or the Facebooks or the what have you. I'm just saying, like, TikTok seems to be getting more bang for the buck lately. And it's not like I don't talk to you all day on TikTok too, Kyron, Little Mr. Taurus Comics, Little Mr. Saw the Lightning Wielder on Kickstarter now. Check it out at xobcomics.com. You know, it's not like we ain't hanging out all the time anyway. Nah, Kyron heard a lot. Kyron's trying to start something because that's what Kyron does. Kyron likes to start stuff. Being one of the 1% of the 1%, he likes to start stuff among the rabble. Keep us fighting with each other. That's what Kyron says. Makes it easier to profit off of us. And for those that don't know, I'm totally picking on Kyron. Danny J. Quick used to crack jokes about how rich Kyron was because he lives in California and just cost of living so much higher in California than, like, you know, the southern places that we live. And he started running with the joke I mean, he made the joke, and then we just started running with it on my show, and now it has just become its own living, breathing thing about how rich guy is and all of his butlers and stuff. And I love it so much. It brings me so much joy when like Katie sends me a picture because Katie is always on our show hanging out and has her own art stream. What Katie draws, that's amazing. And uh, she'll be sending me pictures of like broken down castles and stuff in Scotland, and she's like, "Man, Kyler's Kyron's butler's been slipping, man. Really let the estate go." And I laugh so freaking hard. It's it's not like it's that big a joke, but oh, I laugh so hard that it just when a joke gets its own legs, oh, that makes me so happy. This is like one of the only times I can remember actually going outside of the panel borders much. I mean, every once in a while, like I'll have a laser or something go out of a panel border, but it's just not something I tend to do because for so long, so many of my books, were for other people that, and they didn't want to do XYZ or they didn't want to, they were trying to go for a certain vibe. Like one of the clients I work for all the time is going for like a real 80s vibe because he wants his books to look like, their back issues that you found from some lost publisher that you didn't know existed. And another one is so focused on keeping his stuff forward compatible that it'll work on all of the different platforms for e-readers and stuff, that he only wants like rectangular panels that will work in those formats that are easy to cut out, and doesn't want bleed trims and doesn't want things going outside of the panel because he's thinking forward on everything, which is smart. What program are you using? I never seen anyone drawing in Windows. Most people use tablets. Oh man, I'm using Clip Studio, which like 90% of your comic book artists are using now. And I use it on my Surface Pro sometimes too, because it's easy to sit in my recliner and work. But it is a powerhouse on Windows. And this desktop got me so much more power for so much less money than my laptop that I could afford like this nice big tablet screen to work on. It's just, oh, it's great. It's absolutely great. Yeah, Clip Studio is freaking amazing, man. I cannot recommend it enough. And even the base version that goes on sale all the time for super cheap is a great deal. And like, I started making a living with that base version. It is not inferior by any means. The EX version has some nice, extra little whistles, but I say the regular base version has all the bells and a couple of the whistles. The extreme version has all of the whistles. Yeah, it is awesome. Uh, Kyron says Katie might be right. I found out I'm 1% Welsh, and my dad went and visited a castle in the area that we are connected to. There you go. There you go. I told you, Kyron's one of the 1% of the 1%. Sometimes I draw something so rough, I'm trying to figure out what I was thinking here. Remind myself which side his tooth is broken on. Is the other tooth broken out? So this will be his broken tooth here. And this will be the bloody hole where his other tooth was. So this must have been his bottom teeth, which a lot of the times you can't even see, but now that he's getting the snot beat out of him, his mouth's way open a lot more, trying to scream, but he can't, because KAAW is just whooping his tail so fast you can't even see him. I really wanted to sink home in this issue just like how unevenly matched this is. Like they got lucky and caught him in the first book and got him trapped on their ship, but that was the worst thing they could have done because now they're stuck on a ship with him. And I'm on the wrong layer. Of course, I'm on the wrong layer. Katie says whales have some amazing castles. I didn't even know the whales built castles. But then I don't go that deep in the sea anymore. Ha ha! Ba-dum-bump. Dad jokes for the win. And a fishy dad joke at that. That's a double hitter, baby. I don't make near enough fish puns. I really should. For somebody who loves bad puns and bad jokes as much as I do, I really should make more fish puns. Though I did make one last night because I was talking with a mutual friend last night, and we were talking about how Katie's first reaction to somebody was to not like them, which turned out to be the correct reaction. And the friend I was talking to was like, "Can you imagine Katie not liking anybody?" And we both laughed at that. And I was like, I can't imagine it, but I dang sure wouldn't want to be on that list. You're absolutely right, Katie. Whales are mammals, not fish. And then I was like, man, as much time as Katie spends cutting the garden with a scythe and wandering around in the woods planting trees and stuff across the Scottish wilderness and all that, like she would scythe me up into fish sticks and bury me under some beautiful tree, and I would be gone. That's the first fish pun I made in a long time. What do you make in CSP? I make the Mighty KAAW, Green Zone, the Sentinels, T-Man and Hyperstrike, and I do all of my comic work, and that's where I make my living, is in Clip Studio. I do all my lettering in here. Some people use Illustrator and stuff. I don't want to have to pay for another software. And I have other software that I could use, like Adobe rules the market in like video editing and photo manipulation and stuff. Everybody thinks Photoshop is the superior program for things like that. It's become, I remember teaching Photoshop at college when it first came out. And I was like, yeah, it's a fine program, I guess, but it's too niche. Like average public is never going to be able to use this. It's not going to catch on. And then it became synonymous with editing a photo. Like it's a verb now instead of a program. I was absolutely wrong on that. But where like it has become the industry standard for advertising and Premiere and After Effects for video editing and stuff. If you're working someplace in graphics and you're doing like production work in graphics, 9 times out of 10, the company you work for is using CorelDRAW instead of Adobe Illustrator. I mean, some places do, but out of all the different places that I have worked over the years, and I've worked at a lot of them, like I said, 9 times out of 10, they're using CorelDRAW, whether it's a t-shirt shop or somebody making laser cut signs for your front yard out of steel. or a t-shirt shop or a sign shop or like whatever, they're all using CorelDRAW. And so that's the one that I always had on hand because that's what all the shops I worked at always used. And so if I need to do something, like if I need to do page layouts or desktop publishing type stuff, or I need to design a sign or a logo or something, I'll still pretty much go in there and do it because I've already got it. I got all the shortcuts memorized, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I could go do my lettering in there, but it's just so much easier to keep it in one spot and one file and not have to go from place to place to work on it for me. The only problem I have with that is Clip Studio doesn't have a built-in spell check. That is my only beef really with Clip Studio. If they had a built-in spell check, it would be awesome. But they don't. And I don't know if that's because it's a Japanese program and, you know, maybe I wouldn't think switching over and adding an English spell check would be a tough thing to do. But I've suggested it every year when they open up suggestions for how can we improve the product, and they have yet to offer it. They've offered all kinds of stuff that I never even dreamed of asking for, but a spell check they still have not offered yet. I ain't hung up about it, but it'd be nice if they had it. I just make a point of like laying out most of my dialogue in like a Google Doc or a Word document or something first so I can spell check it and then copy and paste the dialogue in. It still gets me on the crossbar eyes because it will automatically capitalize eyes at the beginning of a sentence. And in the font I'm using from Blambot, a capital I comes out as a crossbar I. So I always end up having to go back and fix a bunch of those that I didn't see. But that's why you hire editors that aren't you, because I can't see those mistakes. But my editor sees them real quick. Oh yeah, spell check would be so much easier, dude. And even like when it's something weird, like I would happily deal with a red line under every time I write KAAW if it would help me catch, you know, every time I misspell some stupid little word that my ADD self should know how to spell, but I don't. But I came to terms a long time ago with the fact that I'm not a good speller. My boss at the sign shop used to get so mad at me that I was a bad speller. And granted, we're working on computers. I'm not like misspelling a customer's name in one-shot enamel paint on their side of their building. Like it's on a computer screen and it should be like, this is spelled wrong, fix it. And I fix it. And she'd be like, you work in a sign shop, you really should be better at this. And I was like, you never asked me if I could spell. I would have been honest about it and told you that I can't, but I use spell check. But she's like, I know I asked if you could spell. I was like, no, you didn't, because I was waiting the whole interview for you to ask me if I could spell. And you never did. Because I would have been honest. That was the only thing I was worried about going into the interview at that sign shop was my spelling is not great, but you know, it just comes with the Tourette's and the ADD and all of the neurodivergent blessings that I have, that, you know, that's just one of those things that doesn't work great in my brain. Doesn't click. But you know what? So much other awesome stuff does click well that other people can't do, that I'm not about to beat myself up over it. But I would have been honest if she'd asked. Absolutely. I'd rather lose the job honestly than get it dishonestly. I've never done this kind of thing before, but I've been reading a lot of manga lately, and I've definitely been getting influenced more and more on some things, and I really want to sink home in this scene. Just KAAW is just so much faster than you can even see. Like he just dude doesn't even stand a chance against him. Like, it's not a competition. It's ass whooping. So one problem with having my post correction set so high so that it'll turn my hand drawn lines into straight lines for things like this is it also wants to post correct them down to different thicknesses, and sometimes that thickness is invisible thickness, and I don't want that. And sometimes I forget to hit the button and turn my eraser off. I don't want that either. I can hear my dog snoring across the house. It's so loud. There's VR and self-driving cars. Why do we not have spell check and everything? Absolutely. Absolutely. That's just, it's ridiculous. Kyron says spelling's overrated. Sarah says, I'm surprised Clip Studio doesn't have spell check. It has special functions for comic creators. You can't be the only one who wants it. Oh, I'm not. So weird how differently various neurodivergent brains work with spelling. I'm very nitpicky about spelling myself, she says. But I think among my neurodivergent friends, it's a 50-50 split on good spellers versus bad spellers. Oh, yeah. And it's just like, it's what clicks in our brains. Like for me, math clicked. And it just makes sense, and it scratches an itch in my soul. And because it works forwards and backwards, and it's always the same until you get up into the crazy, high end, I say made up maths, like, but when you're just like talking regular math, 4 plus 4 is 8, 8 minus 4 is 4. Like it works, and it makes sense in a world where nothing else does. And spelling for me is just like a bunch of random gobbledygook that somebody threw together, and they can't even make sense of their own rules. Like, oh yeah, it's always this way, unless it's this way, or unless it's this way, or all of these other versions where it doesn't work. And I'm just like, that doesn't make sense. Karen says 4 plus 4 is 8. All this time I've been putting 44. Yeah. That's why we all say, lucky Kyron's rich. Lucky he's rich and pretty. So otherwise it would be a much harder go for poor Kyron. Spelling in English is extra terrible, says Sarah White. Because it's just a mishmash of other languages, exactly, that we adopted without adopting the rules from those languages, which just drives me up the freaking wall. It's such a mishmash of other things. Where like in French or Spanish or whatever, everything basically comes from Latin. So everything has like the same kind of rules and is evolved, and like, and going from French to Spanish is easy because it's mostly accent. Like a lot of the words are very, very similar. And like it was very easy to figure out from one to the other when I moved from French to English. I mean, from French to Spanish. But English is just stuff from everywhere. We've got German words, and we've got chopped up imitations of Native American words and words from, the Far East and all kinds of stuff. Like our bastardized versions of them that don't make sense and aren't spelled right, and the spelling rules have changed on our own words since we created them. Katie's version of English is even worse because she adds extra letters where there doesn't need to be any. We got so many extra letters on our stuff anyway. But like, yeah, going to the chocolate shop with the extra P and an E is weird. But Cheating at Scrabble. That's what the Brits are up to. The Brits are still trying to keep us down, putting extra letters in their language. Yeah, we may not be getting them taxes anymore. But we're gonna screw up your Scrabble names. Yeah, my ADD is great with spelling, but I hate math. See, exactly. Like, it's just what clicks in our brains. And like some people are really great at remembering all those random little bits of spelling nonsense. I cannot. It just doesn't click. Why the hell do we have silent letters? That never made sense. Because sometimes they didn't used to be silent, and sometimes they just threw them on. The rules for it, like it's kind of interesting how it happens. I watch like the anthropologists, linguists, and stuff that explain how words evolved over time and why a knight in shining armor starts with a K and stuff. But I can't remember the reasons. But it's fun to watch. I enjoy it. Um, I just can't remember it because it doesn't stick in my brain. But then I will also admit, like in the way that doesn't stick in my brain, like I was a grown adult before I got the months of the year down in order. Like I was probably in my late 20s before I finally got the months of the year memorized. I had to memorize them at one point in like my junior year or something because my English teacher realized I didn't know them and wouldn't let me pass that year unless I memorized them. So I memorized them long enough to get through the class. And then I instantly forgot them again. And all I had was like January, February, March, April, May, like up to my birthday. That's all I could remember. After that, it just, whatever comes next, comes next. I ain't hung up about it. I didn't really care. Further on as an adult, I finally got sick of being shamed enough for it that I made myself learn it and figure out mnemonic devices and stuff to help me remember which one comes after which. And I still have to kind of plod my way through it very carefully to think through the end of the year, but I've got it now. And I didn't for a long time because it just didn't click in my brain and I didn't care. It didn't matter to me. So I had no reason for it to click. Like how pagination works when you're putting a booklet together, that mattered to me. So I remembered that from the first day. And I realized you fold it over and you got page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, and you always have odd numbers on this side and even numbers on this side. And like that sticks because to me that's important and it matters in what I want to do with my life. Months of the year never mattered, so I didn't care. The postman's here picking up my books to take out for shipments for all the packages that I had sold this weekend. And the dogs are losing their crap because they can see the mail lady out the front door. And so they're losing their crap because they see her every day. And every day she comes and picks up packages off the front porch. But this is the day she's surely going to try and get in and kill us all as far as the dogs are concerned. And so this is, we have to freak out every time. Over and over and over and over and over and over again. Oh, those dogs drive me up the wall sometimes. But they're cute and they're sweet and they give good snuggles. So, I'll put up with it. Like trying to think through, okay, this is what the aliens look like. And like, let me get over here and show you a shot. Oh, no, wrong side of the page. I'm reversed. Okay, like they've got these big round eyeballs and they've got these great big eyelids that cover them. And sometimes those eyelids open up real wide to be surprised, and sometimes they're super narrow when they're angry and stuff. And I designed them that way, and then I got to figure out how that works as I'm going through. Yeah, they do look like birds, don't they, Kyron? I had a long conversation with Kyron yesterday about that. Like, and I will tell you all about it. I absolutely intended these guys to be insects, like to be evolved from insects. I gave them big giant eyes on the sides of their heads, like a praying mantis. I gave them bifurcated jaws, with like two separate sets of free moving mandibles, like, a lot of insects have. And then, I gave them claws at the end of their appendages. But I didn't want to put shells on the outside of them because it's been done and then they'd look like a xenomorph. And so I decided to make them fleshy on the outside. And well, if they're going to be fleshy, then like what are they covered with? Is it just lumpy, bumpy goo? And I liked the shape language idea of them having these flat blades of skin like hair. And so I added that. But when you put the big eyes on the side of the head and you put the mandibles in the front with the two top ones being bigger and hanging over, and they got the big eyes and they got the flaps coming down. And then I started coloring them all of different colors, like each clan is a different color, and if you inbreed, then you get these colors and stuff. They absolutely looked like a bunch of bucktooth parrots when it was done because they ended up all colorful and stuff. I didn't want them to be parrots. I wanted them to be bugs. But when I got done with it and looked at it, and other people saw it, like, oh, they're parrot dudes. I was like, well, that's not what I intended, but that's absolutely how they read. So yeah, okay, fine. They're slimy parrot dudes. And that's fine. I got no beef with that. Like, it's not what I intended, but it took on a life of its own and it ended up differently. But then I had to decide, like, I didn't intend for them to have, I intended them to be insects at first, which don't have bones, but I took away the exoskeleton. So are they just muscly flesh that moves around like an octopus? Or, which then, like, how do I have to make their legs and arms move? And so eventually I was like, well, okay, they're going to have a skeleton. And so then that decided how their arms moved, how their legs moved, how they move when they bend over to get into a doorway or something. And so they ended up very different than what I originally intended. But anyway, so I end up with these great big eyelids over these great big eyes, and which is great for expressions and stuff. But then you have to think through, like, what happens when you start pounding the fool out of somebody? Like, what does damage look like on those? So, like, I decided to give them big, swollen, blister-like, swole-up bruises like we'll get, if somebody dots our eye, we'll get that, big, swollen-up, bruised spot to it. And that's what I decided to go with. I hope it reads to the readers as damage, as what I'm intending it to be. But, sometimes you do your best on something to make it read one way and the readers look at it and see something else. I can't tell you how many, like, I designed Virgil from Green Zone to be a giant horny toad because I loved horny toads when I was a kid. I loved playing with them and stuff. And so I absolutely designed him to be a horny toad. And it amazes me how many times somebody has looked at him and been like, oh, he's a toad. Really? Like, that's what you see in that? Like, I'm not going to argue with him because it doesn't really matter right now. But, like, I've had people do reviews on the book and be like, yeah, we're following a giant toad man named Virgil Greenzone. Like, no, that's not his name at all. Like, his name is spelled out in the book, literally. But you can't account for some stuff. Do your best and move on. That's what I said. But so, like, yeah, I'm giving him all these big blistered up welts and stuff, and also the ship is getting so hot that, like, the blood is boiling. So, like, part of these are just blisters and stuff from the heat in the place, which I gotta really portraying the coloring, that everything goes from like normal temperatures in the ship to suddenly skyrocketing as they're ripped out of hyperspace and the ship is now hurtling to its death on some unknown planet lost in uncharted space. This has absolutely been the goriest book I've worked on probably in 20 years. Well, the music got really intense all of a sudden, Karen says. Let's see. PM Comics said, "No, I thought he was a bearded dragon." Now that makes a whole lot more sense. That I dig when people say that because like lots of people have bearded dragons as pets, so that is an absolutely reasonable thing. And like it's a cartoon version. You know, it's a very cartoonized version of a uh, horny toad. Like it is not scientifically accurate by any means. So, like, seeing it as a bearded dragon is absolutely a reasonable response, and I have no beef with that whatsoever. And some people have gotten so excited about that because, you know, they have a bearded dragon and whatnot, which is really cool to me. But the toad one, like, the first time somebody did it, I was like, did I just really suck at drawing this? Like, did I just do a really crappy job? And then and then after that, like lots of people saw him for what he was, and lots of people were like, it kind of sort of reminds me of those lizards I used to play with when I was a kid, them horny toads. You know what? As a matter of fact, which fun fact, if you haven't read Green Zone, Life in the Blocks, if you know anything about horny toads, you will understand how he has his one automatic defense when he gets scared and threatened, like where that comes from. If you've read it, you know what I'm talking about. And if you just bought it and you didn't read it, well, thank you anyway. I appreciate it. Some people get bent out of shape if somebody buys their books but doesn't read it. I would love you to read it. I want you to read it. You just want to buy it. Have it. Hold it. Sniff it. I don't care. That's fine with me. I don't care what you do with it once you get it. I want you to read it and enjoy it because I want you to come back and buy the next one. But if you just want to buy it because you like buying them, I'll sell you too. I ain't hung up about it, said the wise man. Karen says, I bought it, then I read it, then I reread it, then I bought the next issue. Which, by the way, all the issues are for sale on the TikTok shop. So I'll get a little perspective here on those. think I might put a little bit more bend in this arm going the wrong way, so that we really know that this arm is busted. Karen says, then he had his butler read it to him and told my accountant how much I liked it. And then he helped me buy Mr. Fish Comic, a division of Taurus Comics Incorporated International. Man, I ain't a sellout, but I'm here to tell you, if I could just sit back and make cool books and let somebody else handle all the publishing and the advertising and the social media, shoot, son. That'd be nice. You know, I bought Green Zone, but Lori accidentally filled out my survey, so I got it sent to her house. Now with everything that's happened, I'll probably never see that. I tell you what, sir, you send me your address, and when I get some money, I'll send you a bill. So to be fair, that may never happen. I are a comic book artist after all. We're not known for our wealth and riches, unless you're Kyra. That's all you're known for. That and your sex appeal. Yeah. Got lots of great features, but having money ain't one of them. I was talking with a dear friend of mine recently, and we were talking about, just all the things that, we've been through and whatnot, and how it's surprising the kindest, sweetest folks have usually been through some of the hardest stuff. And, it going through the hard times seems to have, one of two effects on people. Either it makes you more thoughtful and generous and kind and more determined to try and make sure that that doesn't happen to anybody else, or it breaks you. And, often if it breaks you, you end up going on and doing the same kind of stuff to somebody else that was done to you. And I was like, I'm not going to be that dude. I can tell you that much for certain. Buck stops here with the pain if I can have anything to do with it. And that's part of the reason that I am such a fun-loving, happy individual. And I'm always laughing, and sometimes I even drive my wife nuts with how much I laugh, like at my own jokes and stuff. But you know what? I'm a funny dude, and I would much rather be laughing than crying. Heck, Tourette's is hard. If I wanted to cry, I got plenty of reasons to do it. But it's not going to change anything. Like, it's not going to make me tick less. It's not going to make it easier to walk. It's not going to, make it easier to drive on a bad day or do the things that I want to do. But laughing and having fun and being in a good mood absolutely makes those hard days a whole lot easier. So I would much rather be that dude than be the dude that's sitting around crying and whining and moaning about how miserable it is because I'm in pain all the time. Well, yeah, that sucks. But also, what about this stupid pun? And then I laugh and I laugh and I sing love songs to my dog and I make wiener jokes to my wiener dog and I laugh and I giggle and I have fun like a 5-year-old and I just love it. I never want to go through the things I went through. Sarah says. It's way better than being the sort of person who went through those hard times and believes everyone else should have to go through it too. Absolutely. Karen says, Sarah, I have an extra copy of Green Zone. Send me your address and I can send it to you. Karen's such a sweet lad. That's going to be his charitable donation for the whole year. He's going to write off $10 billion with that. I love giving Karen a hard time. Let's see. Yeah, it's the first one for me, says PM Comics. I try to help caregivers, especially young ones, because it's hard. Absolutely. And then TikTok says, great job. You've gone live for 90 minutes. Don't forget to take a break. You're not the boss of me, TikTok. I don't take breaks. What do I look like? A reasonable human being? Psh, I'm a comic book creator. I live off caffeine and sarcasm. Oh, that's pretty good. I need to make a sticker of that. I don't know. Probably Sarah needs to make a sticker off of that because she'd probably get it done faster than I will. Now it's getting into the confusing stuff because there's so much going on. Like his coat hangs down in the back, but there's also smoke going around and flames, and like the bottom of his boots are burning off. His feet are catching on fire. It's getting real confusing now. And like I want to stick splatters of blood everywhere, but I don't want to make it so confusing that you can't tell what's going on. I have a design in my TeePublic shop, says Sarah. It says, coffee makes me poop. Indeed it does. I believe that's a universal truth we can all relate to, deep down inside. Sometimes not so deep down. Sometimes more in our immediate future kind of feeling. Karen says this Kickstarter scammer has been bugging me for weeks. They keep saying they can help me fund my campaign, but what they don't realize, my campaign is funded already and only has 24 hours left to go. Oh, but hey, what if we can scam some money out of you, Karen? Think of the scammers. Won't somebody think of the scammers, Karen? How are they supposed to make a living, Karen? Get a job? Karen. That's thoughtless. It's heartless. It's inconsiderate. That's what it is. Oh man, you gotta admire their dedication to the craft. Like, they work so hard on scamming you out of your money. Like, they put in so much effort into it. It really is kind of impressive. And like the fact that some of these things have like entire call centers built up around them is just nuts to me. Like, and especially when the cons seem so simple and so easy to spot, like, but you know, then your Aunt Tilly will fall for it every time, and that's all it takes. You know what? Yeah, we need some blood coming down off of this. Maybe I shouldn't say blood. I don't want to get myself banned from the talk shop. Maybe we should say this living sundae should have lots of caramel sauce dripping off of it. Yeah, that's better. That's not more disgusting. Which means I'm going to make this thicker and take out a lot of this detail because it's covered in caramel sauce and not put some highlights so we know that caramel sauce is shiny. There we go. Doesn't that look tasty? Put it pulling up around his little ice cream cone legs. I gotta admit, I absolutely forgot how I had previously drawn their feet before when I was penciling this, and I penciled this so fast. I penciled the whole thing in like a day and a half or something. So I just drew their feet sticking out the bottom of their pants and then had to go back and look at it and figure out how I drew it for real. But it's easy enough to throw the boots on them. Now, it's not that hard. It's not as hard as Kyra makes it out to be. All right. Sometimes I'll get lost in those details and put in way more than needs to be in there. But I really wanted to show that the cabin is starting to fill up with smoke and fire because of the re-entry. But I also need to show a clear shot to KAAW's mask in the background that he hasn't had the whole first two books so far because the ship's captain took it off of him as a trophy when they captured it. So he has it in the flashbacks that tell you about his homeworld and where he came from, but he doesn't have it in the rest of the book. He's in this big containment suit that they put him in to try and imprison him with the other slaves that they were going to sell to the arenas on the outer rim of the galaxy. Because the mighty KAAW accidentally started a revolution on his home planet among the Cro-Magnon slaves. And they had to get him off planet, and the entire army of the ruling class wasn't strong enough to stop him. So they hired pirates from off-world to get him and trap him and take him off planet. And he killed a bunch of the crew in the process, but they finally got him on the ship and got him in a containment pod and thought they had him licked. And then he breaks out and hilarity and chaos and carnage ensue. As you do in a bloody comic book, you know, where there's lots of the dying and the disemboweling and the heads turning the wrong ways and the removal of said heads from their aforementioned bodies and whatnot. Because he is the galaxy's deadliest warrior. Not the galaxy's yummiest pastry chef. Oh no. Had they locked him up in a kitchen? when he was a child and not the arena to fight and die for the entertainment of the masses, this would be a very different book indeed. This would be more like the video game Cooking Mama, the graphic novel. But it's not. It's the mighty KAAW, the Cro-Magnon, where we slaughter aliens by the dozen. Honestly, kind of makes me feel bad. I can't help but feel a little bit guilty for the brutal way we slaughter so many of these aliens. Alrighty. We're one panel away from finishing this page, babies. Look at us go. And we've been going for an hour 41. We can finish this. We can finish this because... Oh, wait a minute. No, we got a whole panel down here I forgot about. Never mind. But we can finish this anyway because this is just a big old snarling picture of our boy KAAW. We know how to draw our boy KAAW in his sleep because we've done lots of the sketch covers of KAAW. We've drawn him many a time now. Everybody likes to get a sketch cover of KAAW doing something crazy. Maybe it's disemboweling aliens. Maybe it's getting drunk with Rick and Morty. Maybe it's wanting to see the mighty KAAW as Mrs. Nesbit from Toy Story. I'm not here to kink shame you. Your Uncle Fishy loves you. Whatever you're into. Not my business. Not my circus, not my monkeys. But if you want it, I'll draw it. You ask me to draw a picture for you, I'll say, how high? You'll say, that don't make any sense. And I'll say, indeed. You'll say, that doesn't really make any sense either. And I'll just keep knowingly smiling, nodding my head, like I'm in on some kind of secret that you're just not in on. You'll start to think that I might be a little kooky. By then it's too late. You're already in. Now you gotta watch till the end, see how it all plays out. I'm not a weirdo that spends all day locked in an office drawing funny books. You are. I'm not a crazy man on the internet talking to himself while he draws funny pictures of aliens getting slaughtered. No. Couldn't be me. Karen says Dracula loves the caramel sauce. Being as Karen gets to hang out with Dracula at his 1% of the 1% giveaways each year, I'm going to trust his take on it. You know how those billionaires like to gossip at their billionaire retreats? Dracula gives out the best caramel drinks, Kyron says. I was asking Kyron one time how he stayed so young and handsome. Told me he learned it at a billionaire retreat one time. Something to do with drinking the blood of a young virgin. Said the only problem is nowadays trying to get that blood from a virgin ends up leaving you stinking of Cheetos and Red Bull. But he said it's worth it. I just plugged my nose and shook my head along. I know better than to argue with my betters. My grandma taught me better than that. There we go. All right, we got one nasty KAAW snarl in the books. Other than his fist, he's barely on this page. He's just moving so fast, you can't see him. He's just whoosh, 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 whoosh. All right, now let's flip it back and see how she looks. We'll zoom out a little teeny bit. There we go. We got Captain looking at the bloodied corpse of his first officer and being all, I ain't gonna tell you squat. And we got KAAW cracking his knuckles, fixing to lay the smack down. And then we got skadoosh. Captain's tooth getting knocked into the next page. Skadoosh. Captain's other tooth getting broken. We see the ship flying apart as the ship's AI is announcing all these different parts of the ship that are breaking apart and being lost as it's rocketing out of hyperspace. And then the captain just skadoosh. And then the captain just glares at him and is like, man, you can do whatever you want to me. We're all going to die in this crash. You're going to burn with us. Not today, pirate scum. Yar. Because you got to say yar when you're talking to a pirate. And then something else happens down here, but I ain't going to give it all away for free. Y'all going to have to buy the book, baby. Thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you on TikTok for hanging out with me. I appreciate those of y'all that hung out and played along. Thank y'all for the regular folks that tune in to my Tuesday morning live stream on all the Mr. Fish Comics networks that you can find on your YouTubes and your face pages and your Twitchy streams and whatnot. Thank y'all for hanging out. I'm going to go ahead and get ready to do the outro. Thank you guys. Peace out. I will see most of y'all again next Tuesday. And for those that are on my Patreon, I will see y'all Thursday morning for the Patreon only School of Fish episode. So peace out, guys. Thank y'all very much.
Hello, everybody. It is your Uncle Fish back again for School of Fish art stream. J-Man wants a Gatling gun on the end of his tail. Oh my goodness. J-Man says the tail's where you put all the heavy artillery. Damn. Said he used to have a howitzer on the end.